So welcome everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone to the topic that we have today, which is revolutionizing customer service in the supply chain. It's going to be a very fascinating talk because we've got some amazing people here, amazing speakers that are going to talk to us about exactly that and what's happening in the supply chain and what's going on in their industry. So I'd like to introduce first Olivier. He is, first of all, sorry, I'll go ahead and introduce and then I'll give you a little background on everyone. So there is Olivier, there is also Aadi and Abdul. There is Azukaego, she will be joining us, I believe, shortly. So thank you all for joining us for now. To give a little bit of background on the speakers, Abdul is the Chief Business Officer at Shipper, a logistic aggregator platform based in Indonesia that helps freight forwarders deliver goods easily. He has a supply chain background from the Indian Institute of Delhi. He's also an operator with over 10 years of experience across India, Middle East, and Southeast Asia. And he's passionate about and strong and hands-on leader who can formulate, execute multiple change and innovate supply chain strategies. So that's Abdul. Give everybody a wave. Aadi, he is one of the founding team members of Zilingo. He started as the head of expansion at Zilingo, a B2B marketplace for wholesale buyers and sellers in categories, including fashion, lifestyle, furniture, home goods and fabric, FMCG, and more. He initiated the growth for Indonesia business to be one of the largest fashion marketplaces in Southeast Asia today. He has been an instrumental piece in setting up Zilingo as a B2B platform. So, Aadi, give everyone else a wave. And Olivier, he is our Quincus Chief Revenue Officer. He has over 15 years of experience in sales and marketing leadership. Throughout his career, he has built and led international sales, marketing, and as well as operation teams, operating in multiple marketplaces, including EMEA, as well as APAC and North America. And I'm your host, Katherina-Olivia. I'm the Chief Product Officer at Quincus. So let's get started. So let's start with one of the most interesting questions today that we all know that has been affecting all of us, which is the COVID-19, the pandemic. So for everybody, what is the impact of the pandemic on e-commerce and consumer trends and demands? Why don't we start with you, Aadi? What has been the impact of that?
Yeah, sure, Katherina. I think a lot of things changed really, and a lot of things changed. Of course, a lot of bad things, but a lot of things changed for good as well when COVID hit. So Zilingo specializes in the business of fashion. We are a B2B supply chain company, or a B2B marketplace, if I may say, for the business of fashion, and we connect manufacturers and suppliers with fashion brands across the world. So the first thing that happened, or the first thing that changed for us as a company, is when COVID hit, fashion in a lot of countries was not classified as an essential category. So business had a terrible hit. Of course, we recovered soon after, and then due to the massive shift towards online buying, things started improving. And what I can say today is that the unit economics for our business look far better than what it was 12 months ago. If I talk in terms specifically of the supply chain, of the way people do business, I think one of the things that changed for us as a platform is that we have been working with a lot of SMEs, trying to help them procure fashion for their businesses from manufacturers and suppliers across the world. But when it comes to larger enterprise accounts, it was much harder to convert and convince those guys to adopt digital platforms for procurement. Because they were used to doing business a certain way. What COVID did was, because people couldn't travel, because there were barriers now in terms of who could meet whom, or if people could travel to their sourcing offices from the West, let's say, into Asia, the affinity to adopt digital platforms increased. And some of those largest enterprise clients that we had been chasing for months started converting within a matter of days. So that was a big shift that we saw as a business, as a B2B enabler, where some of the larger clients as well, who of course understood the value of digital platforms, were digital procurement platforms, but were hindered due to one reason or the other. COVID just accelerated that shift for us. So I think that was one of the bigger changes for us.
So from an inventory perspective, how did they handle it? Because that must have actually taken a toll, because they might not have been ready, or now like, were maybe they had stock but not enough stock. Was that a challenge that you saw?
Yeah, so we work mostly with large manufacturers. So the problem that happened first up was that a lot of brands started canceling orders, of course, because on their side of things, sales dropped. So that was a big problem that a lot of our manufacturer partners faced. Though, of course, orders picked up towards the latter half of last year. The season in the middle was quite problematic. What we did, though, in that particular time was we saw that the PPE business was picking up. Everyone wanted masks and everyone wanted PPE suits, etc. And again, all of these products are native to fashion supply chains. PPE suit is pretty much made the same way probably another fashion item would be made, of course, with different materials. So we helped our manufacturers sort of, be agile and enabled them in a way to start producing those kind of items. So in that lull period for Zilingo itself and for a lot of its partners, PPE sort of came to the rescue. And not that today it's a big part of our business, but that period, in that particular period, the manufacturers were able to sort of sustain because they could do this particular business.
Thank you, Aadi. Yes, Abdul, what did you see going on in Indonesia? Because that must have been a rise.
It's been for sure, right? Initially, we saw, when the pandemic and lockdowns kind of started off, we saw that the volume growth was in some key segments, right? Like essentials. But over a period of time, what's happened is all the categories have kind of been capitalizing on this kind of growth. And the biggest differentiator that we kind of see in the last 18 or at least 12 months is that you have a lot of impulse purchases going down, which means a lot of returns, going away, because probably every consumer has a lot more time to kind of research and be sure of what he wants or she wants. And probably they're also looking forward for someone to knock on their door and hand over a package for them. So I think returns have gone down massively, right? And obviously, all the categories have picked up. The other one key thing that we've kind of seen is that consumption beyond the top 5-7 cities have also expanded, probably because a lot of people are working in different cities right now or back in their homes or villages, right? So you do see consumption beyond the top 7 cities having gone up, which is definitely a good sign for the future to come, because a lot of people in those cities and towns would kind of get used to what an online shopping is and expand the market. One last thing is, things that were expected not to be sold online in this part of the world, which includes real estate and apartment and things like that, have also started jumping onto it. Furniture sales through online channels have just shot through the roof, things like that.
Thank you. I think we've all been incredibly guilty of buying a lot of stuff on lots of different e-commerces, and then just the act of having something delivered, it feels like Christmas, I think, but just all year round for everybody. And unwrapping Azukaego, you have joined us. I'll introduce you in just one second. Thank you. So basically, just unwrapping and opening those packages is always a delight, and making sure that, of course, returning is a little bit more complicated. We all know that in the supply chain, but receiving packages is, I think, one of my favorite times of the day. So Azukaego, thank you so much for joining us. I know you had a little bit of trouble joining the Zoom call. So just to give everybody a little bit of a background about yourself, Azukaego, she is a certified professional with a wealth of commercial experience spanning 2 decades in West and East and Central Africa. She currently works as a supply chain director at Kimberly-Clark, Nigeria, where she's responsible for the supply network and operational accountability in line with strategic business goals. Thank you and welcome. Okay,
Thank you very much, Katherina. Hello, everybody. Sincere apologies, I'm in transit, so I'm not used to the network in this area. So it's made its mark.
Well, why don't we jump in also, what have you seen in, for example, for Kimberly-Clark in Nigeria, the Kimberly-Clark in all of Africa, what have you seen grow during this period of time of the pandemic?
Okay, interesting. For those of us who do not know, Kimberly-Clark makes feminine care and baby care products, as well as hygiene products, personal hygiene products. Yeah. So what we saw in Nigeria and in this part of Africa is the fact that behaviors changed. So usually people will go to the big stores or to the open markets. Nigeria is predominantly about 90% open market and about 10% so traditional trade and about 10% modern trade. With the pandemic, neighborhood purchases changed. So what happens is that consumer behavior changed. Consumers started buying around themselves. Accessibility became key. So businesses like us in Kimberly-Clark realized that if you don't put your product out there around the consumer, where he or she can get it easily, without going far distances, you cannot compete. So that's one of the things that changed for us in terms of our route to market, where we are, placement, distribution, usually more important and in a different direction. Now growing the opportunity for traditional and neighborhood retail environment, a modern trade and retail neighborhood environment versus traditional open market wholesale trade. So the behaviors are changing. Second behavior that really shifted was, again, in terms of adoption of online buying. It's the youths, it's the newer generation, right? We saw, however, that the elderly started realizing that they had to learn. It becomes a adopt or die kind of behavior. You had to learn to purchase on your phones, and then where the apps are complicated, where you can go into the sites, the Jumia and the Kongas of this world and buy, even the sites and the stores started making it easier. They will send text messages, and I don't know how it's data, it's about data, right? They send text messages to a certain demographic in certain areas saying, make your orders through WhatsApp. When you make your orders through WhatsApp, we'll have somebody at the door ready with it. You don't come out of your car, you drop and pick up. So agility became key. Key to market became key. And we saw that the more we're agile, the more our speed to market is there. And the more we place things in the retail environment that is important, there's the opportunity for growth for us. That's what we saw. So using our product became even more. It's tissue paper, right? It's feminine care, it's baby care, but we need to put it in the right places. So the opportunities for us are huge. Investment in technology, investment in social media, and investment in the right retail channels.
You mentioned something very interesting, which is actually now the demographic of who is now purchasing online has grown. I mean, for example, my father, who's 76 years old, for his birthday, he asked me this time for an Amazon card. It was easier that way. He said, you know what? I do all my purchases on Amazon. He doesn't even need to leave the house anymore. So, I mean, it's exactly one of the key things. So that accessibility is crucial. And I'm guessing all of you have seen now that people want things done now. They need it today. Same day delivery has skyrocketed and people are willing to even pay that. So Olivier, why don't you touch base on a little bit about that? What have we seen in the logistics space when it comes to on-demand, same-day delivery?
Yes, we're saying thank you, Kat, and then I think some great insights, and I think on that point it is spot on. We're seeing a massive growth in what we call hyper-local deliveries, and the reason for hyper-local is to be able to offer that same day. And we're seeing a lot of them being 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 10 minutes deliveries, right? So a lot of that started with the concept of food delivery, which had seen as massive growth during all of the lockdowns. Each country is going through one by one. When obviously people still want to eat different kind of food, they get bored of cooking the same food at home. So they still want to order takeaways, but as they're not allowed to leave the house, then take deliveries was the right option. And obviously food, because it's warm, you want it delivered quickly. But now we're seeing that growth of a hyper-local, hyper-fast, I would like to say, deliveries applying to everything else, from a cable to charge your phone to a pint of milk because you ran out and you don't want to leave the house to go there. And we talked just before about change of behavior. Well, that's a change of behavior that came from the pandemic, and people will continue following those behavior. That will remain as part of their habit. It became convenient to say, "Oh, I need milk. Well, press a button. I'm getting milk in 10 minutes at my door." Why would I have to put my jacket on or my shoes and then go to the walk to get it? No, I'll just press a button. I'll get it again. So that behavior was going to remain.
So, a question for you all. Now that we see that people are now, they're supplying the internet with, every time we purchase something, there's obviously a place that's holding these stuff. So, do we see more drive towards actually online sales versus that of physical stores? Is that something that we have now started to see? Do we see that going back in? If we do we now see it returning back to actually people in-store shopping getting higher, or do we still see that online shopping will continue to grow?
Yeah, I can take that, Katherina, because we are supplying to a lot of retailers and brands, a lot in Southeast Asia and some of the enterprise brands outside of Asia as well. And you are absolutely correct. I think one of the key learnings for a company like ourselves, which is a B2B partner for a lot of these brands, is that we as a company want to double down and work with retailers and brands who are selling more online, or at least are digitally literate, versus offline stores. Because of course, not just the retailers, but partners, stakeholders in the supply chain, etc., everyone's realized that for you to create value in the long run, which is risk mitigant and doesn't fail in any of the scenarios like COVID, you need to have an online distribution channel. So again, a lot of these retailers who we used to work with, who were selling offline, struggled far more than the ones who were selling online. So you see, yeah, of course, the retailers who are selling on the Shoppees and Lazadas and Tokopedias of the world are probably far more successful than the ones who are selling on a Tanah Abang market in Indonesia, let's say, right? So I think definitely the trend is here to stay. Yes, some of the offline sales have started picking back up again as well. But what I would say is that a lot of those offline guys have realized and made their online sales channels an integral part of their sales strategy as well now.
And we can I definitely can see that also taking on the logistics space, as more logistic players are asking to be connected already directly into the to the e-commerces. So Azukaego, what does that mean for Kimberly-Clark, who is also doing both?
So the e-commerce space will grow. That's a given. Because when we look at people like your parents and my parents who have converted, they're not going to go back. That's a level of entertainment and how do you put it? And surprise, and engagement, exactly, that comes from e-commerce. But you see, the human connection is also still very strong. The truth is, the moment lockdowns were lifted in some areas, I personally thought that it would take some time to get people back to the parties, back to the group engagements. They went out very fast,
That's very true. I definitely saw that as well, but people actually took time to speak to each other. I guess maybe it was the human interaction that they were missing. They had these ladies that would be in the supermarket and you're waiting in line and they're still talking and you're just like, okay, we need to go now. I need to pay, but they're still talking. So I absolutely agree with you. I think there is definitely that need that people still want that human interaction. I mean, you could have it with the delivery driver also, but that might be.
When you talk women to women, and that's what companies like us in Kimberly-Clark must look at. The fact that how do you make the store interactions more remain, while ensuring that what is the benefit in e-commerce with regards to time, with regards to having exactly what the consumer wants available at all the time, with regards to making the experience worthwhile, such that if the person goes out of his comfort zone to get those things rather than buying it online, he has some additional experience that makes it all worthwhile. So for companies like mine, that's kind of things we need to be thinking about, because if you can get my coffee delivered by booking, or my pizza delivered by booking, if I have to leave my home to go and get it, what's the additional value I'm going to get in the store? You know, there must be that additional benefit, and so it's innovation all the way.
You bring up a good point, because I think one of the things that people are now expecting is also better service. They're starting to see that if I'm going to go to a store, I hope I get that good service, because if not, I can just, if I want to be mistreated as a customer, I can be online and I don't need to talk to you. So, but people are starting to get this mentality.
And then online, I can complain, I can put a thumbs down, I can put a no, and give my feedback immediately. And that's the thing about
no confrontation. No confrontation.
That's the thing about customer-centric businesses or behaviors. You know, I'm resident in Nigeria. I've worked all my life in Africa, and I up till now, there's still a huge opportunity with service. I tell people that in the supply chain, the big opportunity is service. It's the heart, you know, it's owning the heart, such that even if the other brand is in your face, the customer is willing to endure 24 hours of non-availability because of you. Because of the fact that when the customer went into the store or had the online experience, the service was exceptional. And it's the little things, right? It's the little things. Remembering the customer, understanding, and that's what technology does, right? You buy a dress and it gives you that dress in 3 different colors and shapes and sizes, you know? Do you like it this way? Will it, you know, the whole...
Absolutely. It's almost to the point of stalking. You know, you get these little images and, you know, basically advertisements that almost say, buy it, buy it, buy it, because we know you're going to love it. So I guess Abdul or Olivier, what does this mean actually for the logistics players? Because they are actually the ones delivering the boxes or the packages to the customer. What does that mean in terms of service for them? Abdul,
right. Go ahead.
Yeah. Perfect. I was thinking Olivier would take that first. That's why. But I think from a service aspect, right, what happens is e-commerce is a business where you can't predict demand to a great extent, right? You might have great data science teams, but you still can't be great at that because you don't know what consumers are thinking, right? You can have a slight pattern to it. Now, what happens is when you do that, the marketplace or the platform is technically telling that we'll deliver it next day, 6 p.m. in some cases, right? But the consumer still does not expect at 6 p.m. or slightly before that, he or she is expecting in the noon or afternoon, right? That kind of puts a lot of pressure on the delivery infrastructure, right? What's going to happen is, despite the fact that we gave you a promise of 6 p.m. or before, the anticipation is that last 5 times I got it at 11 a.m. So I expect this time as well. So I think from a service aspect of things, I think it's important to kind of be proactive, right? And the logic is not because you're failing on a promise being given by someone, but it's just because their expectation was set differently, right? So I think, and the later you get in the day, the mood probably of the receiver changes because he or she was expecting to take it somewhere else. So I think overall what's important is being able to communicate. People are okay as long as you're able to tell them that this will fail, right? This will happen, right? So yeah,
under promise, over exceed. What is it? The expression? I always get
under promise, over deliver, right?
There we go. And it's definitely a little bit. It's definitely that. That's right. For sure.
And even if you kind of don't over deliver, right? Just keep them posted, right? So they're not up for surprises, right? I think that's a big challenge. Yeah.
I completely agree with you. And I think one of the biggest problems that we see also is now with the logistic players that have these options who say, we want to, if you want to change your address in the middle of a delivery, you can. And, you know, we're looking at it from a technology perspective going, please don't, you know, because it becomes complex to solve, and also rerouting and so on. But the more options we're giving to customers, that's also something that is starting to happen, because you're absolutely right. We now need it today to now. If I order something, I am happy if it gets delivered within 2 hours. You know, I am not happy if it doesn't get delivered in more than 2 hours. That expectation is definitely there. So,
True.
Olivier, sorry, go ahead, Abdul.
No, that's it. I was just saying true.
Yeah, sure. So, Olivier, how do you see what technology solutions like ourselves, like Quincus, what are we building to help solve that problem, to help manage the expectation and behaviors of customers who are using delivery?
Yeah. Well, I think the first key element that I can see is actually going back to the point that you just made, Abdul, is around the communication, which we like to call visibility, right? People want to know what's happening. And I think that for the past, and we saw that changing already prior to the pandemic, prior to COVID. And I think for the past 18 months, people had a little bit, okay, well, the whole world is going in a weird way. We don't know what's going on. People were somewhat lenient for the past 18 months. They're not anymore. People are now starting to expect again, and went back to the expectation that they had before. It was like, okay, now I want to know what's going on. You need to tell me where is my delivery, when it's going to arrive, what is it going to include, or any of those details. They want that information to be shared with them, and they want the control of it. So it's not just about saying, well, tell me when it's coming, but okay, now people are starting to leave their house again, right? For the past year and a half, I'm looking at people doing deliveries. It was the golden age of deliveries. Everyone was home. No one could be anywhere anyway. So there was never, oh, I need to leave this with your neighbor, or I'm coming back tomorrow, right? Those little missed delivery cards, no one was using them for the past year and a half. Well, it's starting again now. People are starting to leave their houses, depending on the country. So we're now going back into, and the problem is we never really address those challenges. It is inefficient. It's not friendly. Right? That little card is frustrating. I'm like, I was gone for 30 minutes. I missed my delivery. If only they had told me, I would have stayed for 30 minutes extra. So it goes, and that communication, going back to that point, is the fundamentals, where it all starts. Then providing the control on top of it will become important. And this is where we are now. We're in 2021. And giving control to the clients, giving them not just, well, this is coming then, this is coming how, but okay, this is how I want it. This is how I want to be able to control it. Because otherwise, they'll go back to, well, I can walk to the store and get it myself, and I'll have it in 10 minutes. So that's what will need to happen now. And we're seeing it. And that's where we do a lot of effort with our clients, and a lot of development is happening with our clients.
Absolutely. No one wants to stay home anymore and get a text message saying it will be delivered between 8 a.m. in the morning and 6 p.m. at night. You're just like, wait, what? No one wants to just stay anymore, like sitting still, waiting. And I believe that is not only going to be for the logistics space, it's also going to be for other services that are also coming to your home. Like we've all dealt with telecom services, or even, just setting up your Wi-Fi, setting up your TV boxes, those no one wants to wait or receive deliveries within that period of time. So absolutely, there is definitely a change.
Yeah, and if you allow me, Kat, we're even seeing it in completely other sectors. We're working with a chain of hotels right now, which are seeing the same situation. They want to know what's going to happen and when, right? They are the customer in that case, right? They're not a B2C customers like us ordering on Lazada, Shopee, or Zilingo, or any other of the platforms. But they are, the hotel in that case is the customers from hundreds of suppliers that are coming in, and they realize that there's a better way to do this, and that visibility, that control are the two keywords for this.
Absolutely. Thank you, Olivier. So we've all learned something this year. What have we learned that we can take for the future in terms of how we can manage the supply chain, how we can help with the consumer behavior, managing those expectations from customers online, offline, for also delivery providers to work better together with that of, you know, the suppliers. What have we learned? What can we take to the future? Azukaego, why don't you go first?
Okay. So, a very good question, and that's something a whole lot of people are thinking about today. And I think we start answering those questions from what Abdul, Aadi, and Olivier have even spoken up about before. You know, the information issue is the point around visibility, correct? And then you ask the question, Katrina, how does that play with the delivery people, the people who are giving the service where we're not even there, you know? And I think that we need to take a step backward. While we're speeding forward with technology and the opportunities technology can provide, what the pandemic made us see is that the traditional systems need to be embedded and, how do you put it, and working optimally to get technology as an incremental value. So I'll give you an example. We're talking about IoT and blockchain, you know, and a lot of technological advancement. But in a whole part of the world, even the scanning tool, there's still a lot of opportunity to scan the products and put it on the shelf, you know, from production to the shelf. That tool will still, and again, I speak to my environment as a developing market. That tool has a lot of potential. So when we go to the issue of visibility, I think one big potential area is to invest in people and simple technological tools that the people can use and keep developing the people to get used to this technology. So say this is a handheld, right? A delivery guy goes to a customer with his handheld. In the course of going to the customer, his job is not just to deliver it at that point in time. His job is to deliver it and take any comment or feedback from that customer, assuming he meets the customer. Oh, I was expecting you 2 hours ago. What happened? The company said 12 noon. It to be delivered before 12 noon on the site or in the message to me. But you're here at 2 p.m. You know, probably the delivery guy would have been told that in that area he should make his deliveries before 4. So technically he's on time. But the email said before noon or before 2. You know, so there are two different things. So that level of engagement with the extension of the businesses that gets to the customer is really critical, and a lot of investments need to be made there. How to use the tools, how to simplify the tools, and how to ensure that the person understands the tools. That's one area. The other area is the back end. Consumer expectation is changing very fast. They want it now. They want it how they want it now. And they want it without any hitches or delays. How do we translate that information to the back end? To the guy buying the materials, the procurement guy, who can make the decision whether he wants to ship it via a longer transportation or take a longer number of days to get here or to freight it. How do we translate it to the manufacturing team real time? How do we translate it to the people in the warehouse, to the logistics people, so that they know the kind of transportation they use? You know, so I think one area opportunity for communication is making it end to end, you know, beyond the people that are in the face of the customer. And for me, whether it's B2B or, you know, B2C, it is how do we simplify across the chain so that everybody is seeing the changes real time and the impact on the back end to the final customers is also visible to everybody in the chain.
Wow, the lovely thing is that you're reassuring me that we're building the right thing. So that's great. No, I absolutely agree with you. And I think one thing that needs to definitely improve, not only in the real time of communication and updates and alerts and notifications and such, it's also about making sure that the e-commerce or whoever is sending also manages the expectation of the customer with the information that is being collected by the delivery and says the same thing. Because the problem is that if one sends one thing and the other says the other, then no one's ever going to say you were wrong, you were wrong. I mean, that will always create stress and create unnecessary feedback also, because it's not, the data that's collected is not correct. So that's where technology companies need to work together to help combine that information for both providers, logistics and for e-commerces and FMCGs to actually do that properly. So I couldn't agree more with you. Thank you. Aadi or Abdul, whoever you use. Abdul, you mouse.
No, Adi, you should go first.
Yeah, sure. No, I think a lot of learnings, a lot of important learnings, and I agree with Azukaego as well. I think if I were to list down 3 top learnings, right, from last year, one would definitely be digitization is here to stay. And technology is a critical part of things which people have known for a long time, but it is here to stay, right? And I would probably try and give a slightly different example because I think a lot of conversation we are having is from when the goods are picked up and then delivered, right? Of course, that needs to be fast. But what about transparency before that? And especially like for a company like Zilingo, when we are producing lots for, let's say, an Inditex or an H&M, etc. Those are large lots, right? And again, these are just sample names I'm taking. I'm not claiming that all of those guys are Zilingo's customers, but just as a disclaimer. But when you are producing for guys of that size, what they want to know is on a daily basis inside of your factory, how many goods are being produced, how many goods have moved from cutting phase to sewing to then boxing and then delivery. And one of the tools that Zilingo used for quality control, and this is really serendipitous because we acquired this company in Sri Lanka about 3 years ago that digitizes the process of quality control inside of fashion factories. And it's a very simplistic tool, no rocket science, because people on the shop floor are probably not the most qualified to handle complex technology. So it's a simple tab where a person gets the silhouette of the product and he or she has to just tap on that part of the silhouette, which is, which has an error or not an error, or this product has an issue with the color or this particular product doesn't. And when you do that on a real-time basis, there is, a heat map of that particular silhouette. And you see that probably for this particular silhouette, the color was the one which is the maximum red. Therefore, the person who is making the color either is doing something wrong or his or her machine is wrong. Now, the product was installed and bought by Zilingo to figure quality. But what we realized after COVID, why it became extremely, I would say, popular amongst our clients is because it also, of course, tells you how many products have passed through one particular phase of production to the other. So I think that transparency has become so critical and such an integral part of the supply chain solution that Zilingo provides, is that people are extremely keen on sticking on to that product, which has probably 85-90% retention amongst all the clients that we work with. So technology, digitization here to stay. So that is one. Second, I think customer service needs to be preemptive rather than reactive. So a lot of things that we did were around, telling our customers that, hey, now you should probably start producing PPE products, or, no one is going to buy office wear. So please start transitioning towards loungewear. So you have to be, preemptive about the stuff that you're going to work with your customers on. And I think that is number 2. Number 3, I think, and again, from a more customer care perspective, you have to be close to your customer. You need to know who your customer is or what your customer is if you want to have, a long-term relationship, because in periods like COVID, it was extremely important for us to, extend relaxed payment terms to some of our customers, or to, tell them that, you can pay after 3 months, 4 months. But for you to do that, you need to know who the customer is, what his credit profile is. And that is only possible, if you've built that relationship with the customer. And I think those are the things that then ensure a long-term relationship. Those are the 3 things that I think were kind of the top learnings for us.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Aadi. Abdul?
Yeah, I think, adding to what Aadi and others said, right? I think logically speaking, digitization, technology, and considering that logistics is a very operational business, there's a lot of automation, right? I mean, till a few months back, all were expecting that robotics was supposed to be in the US and Europe. That's it. But I think a lot of robotics within warehouses and sorting hubs, things have kind of creeped in this part of the world. So I think a lot of automation will happen, right? And it's not because it probably gives a cost advantage, but it gives you predictability. It is fail-proof, right? So I think that's the first thing. Second is, I think customers once you set an expectation, right, which is what's happened today, you can't change that expectation. The expectation only increases. So I think customer service from here on, or the level of intense competition for customer satisfaction between brands and sellers would just surge from here on. I think the third thing is the channel mix, right, between online, offline, and all of those, modern trade, retail, general trade, all of that is to change, right? I think a lot more faster adaptation of online channels will happen, including by large brands, right, which have not really probably focused on those channels. I think, and that technically means there will be a lot of changes within the supply chain, because the same size of SKU, the same size may not be what you sell for online consumption, right? So you'll have a lot of packaging changes, SKU changes, the frequency of ordering, MOQs changing, things like that, right? So I think uh, future is very different from what we entered this pandemic into.
Thank you, Abdul. Olivier?
Yes, I think that those changes and the impact, and I want to take the opportunity, because I'm cheating here, Kat, but I'm going to take one of the questions that we received.
Yes, go for it,
as part of this. Sorry,
I'm not seeing it on my Q&A, so please, by all means, if you
that's
see
why.
it.
Okay, yeah. So because we've got some fantastic questions here, and I think that this reflects well to one of the first question we got, which is as the challenges subsides, which services and solution customers will be looking for us to support the supply chain, right? And which new customer needs and trends we anticipate. And this was relatively well covered already with some of the answers provided. But I think it reflects back to some of the point that Azukaego mentioned earlier, which is going back to customer service. People will expect more. They will expect a more personal approach now, and we can get that in the stores. But now we're going back for that, even for online shopping. Gone are the days where it's a faceless organizations in the back selling it to us. Again, it was acceptable in the past 18 months. It's not acceptable anymore at this point. I think that's the only point I want to add here. And they do expect efficiency. I mean, how many times have we seen that we get 3 deliveries in the same day from the same from the same company? Right? I get to Amazon doing 3 deliveries in a day. I'm like, why? Why couldn't you put that in the same truck, right, or the same vehicle? So those are the kind of expectations that people are coming up with that we have to tackle. And then it's also about efficiency too for the organization. We have a lot more demands to handle. We need to be efficient. We can't handle the inefficient processes anymore.
So I guess that also walks into like one of the other questions that was asked of like, what has actually revolutionized the returns of the goods segment? So what have we done in this industry to improve that, to revolutionize it?
Yeah, well, and I think it was interesting the point from I think it was Aadi you mentioned. There's been a lot less returns, right, during the pandemic.
I think it was Abdul. I guess.
Oh, it was Abdul. Sorry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you saw a lot less return, and it's true. I mean, we've seen that across the board. But we are expecting a return to previous modes now, right? And fashion is it. I think that's what I was thinking about you, Aadi, because I was thinking about fashion, and fashion is a typical sector. There's a massive amount of return, right? People order, try at home, and then return it. Now you don't need to try at home loungewear as much as you need to try a nice dress, for example, or a dress shirt. So, but now that people are going out, they're starting to buy those items more regularly. There will definitely be a return to old habits there. So that's one thing that we see on that side, and again, there's still an expectation of that concept of omnichannel. I will order online, I want to return in a store. I buy in a store, I want to return online. They want a merge of all the different channels of shopping, and this took a pause, but it's coming back with a vengeance, I want to say, in terms of need.
Right, thank you. And we'll just have one last question, which is for Azukaego. Have you noticed any major differences in consumer attitudes from less tech-savvy consumers who were forced to learn online buying during the pandemic? And if so, how did you respond to ensure good customer service for these?
Oh, interesting question. I was also mulling over the question when when Olivier mentioned it, and if I were to if I didn't see the question before now, I wouldn't have thought about it as a difference in that sense. But thinking about the question, I think the fact that what is required is less tech service savvy customers want more detail in the information. And even if it's products they're already using, you know, how do you put it? And that's back to the engagement issue, right? They go to the store, they can ask questions. So for less tech savvy customers, we see that in terms of what we have online, what is posted online, there needs to be more information. And because the risk is low for less tech savvy customers, generally, you know. For tech savvy customers, the risk is high. They've been shopping online. They know the deviation, what it looks like online and what it looks like with reality and all of that. And then there are a lot of questions around the delivery as well. You know, that's an area of opportunity. So it's that space we see, you know, I think that's what readily comes to my mind. Also, for less tech savvy customers, quality is key. See, they have to get what they're ordering. The fastest way to kill a business is to give low quality or to, again, to your point, to overpromise and underdeliver. It's best to underpromise and overdeliver on the final good they receive, because they don't care. A consumer wants to have what he wants to have, how he wants it right now. And then for somebody who is not tech savvy, who is not tech savvy and who's trying it for the first time, you know, he needs to build trust with what he's getting for continuity to happen. So for us, those are those two areas. So we must have the quality right, quality in the product, quality in the delivery process, and then in the logistics as well. And then we must have the right information. If not, the interactions are much more and are more painful.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest things that logistic players, you know, e-commerces and anybody in between in the supply chain from first, middle, and last need to understand that things need to be built simply, less complicated, less junk in the logistics space as well as the e-commerce, so that people can actually do this for the less tech savvy individuals. So it's quick, fast, you know, everything's moving. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. I would like everybody to basically tell how the audience, how they can get in touch with you or how they can read more about your profile. Abdul, why don't you go first?
Sure, hi. I'm on LinkedIn with my name, Abdul Paravengal. Otherwise, you could email me on abdul@shipper.id. Happy to kind of assist, help, kind of exchange ideas and thoughts.
Thank you, Abdul. Aadi?
Yeah, similar. So on LinkedIn, Aadi Vaidya, or otherwise you can email me on aadi@zilingo.com. It's aadi@zilingo.com. Happy to, of course, help with anything. Been doing startups for 6-7 years now, made a lot of mistakes. So if you don't want to make the same mistakes, feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Aadi. Azukaego?
Aadi, that's very interesting. I'll definitely email you.
For sure.
I am on LinkedIn as Azukaego Chukwuelue, and on email as info@trusttogavi.site. I have it on the chat box, and I'm really always looking to connect with the supply chain issues, the supply chain opportunities, especially from other parts of the world, and related to what we're having here, because the learning is what drives the improvement. You know, there's no point making the same mistakes. It's learning and, you know, moving forward very fast, because supply chain needs to be agile to respond very quickly.
Thank you. Olivier?
LinkedIn, like everyone else. My name, Olivier Adam, on LinkedIn, or you can contact us at Quincus through our website as well, obviously.
Okay, well, a big thank you to everybody and everybody that has attended today. It has been a very interesting chat, and we hope to hear and see more of you guys and everybody that joins. Please don't forget to fill out the survey that's on the chat also to see how that the Quincus talks can improve. And thank you all for attending.
Thank you very much. Pleasure, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.